Well, the first step to do with playing with the slide is to get your right instrument, the instrument that feels right to you for this style, with the action raised up a little bit, because the action is standard. You may be getting all kind of buzzes, stuff like that. It has a lot to do with your approach to the slide, like if you're playing on a Gibson SG with a standard setup, and you take a certain approach to it, you might get away with it, but you might like the feeling of having your strings raised up, or a guitar with high action that just happens to be in that state due to saddle height, neck angle, any myriad of factors. This is a somewhat vintage Guild here from the Westerly, Rhode Island plant. And then you're going to go ahead and get your instrument into this D tuning. Here's our thickest string, D. Strings 5 and 4, A and D, remain the same. Our third string is now F sharp. F sharp string. Second string A. And our thinnest string D. Lots of D's and A's in there. And the F sharp string, like a triad. Played open, you get a D chord. And essentially what we've done is we've loosened the guitar strings, letting the instrument, vintage instrument such as this, relax a bit, rather than say open E tuning where we would be tightening strings. No, this is slackening, loosening, and somewhat relaxing. And one thing is, you will not break strings when doing this, generally speaking, by comparison. Okay. Now, next thing is finding the trying to find the right angle here, among other things. I can zoom in on this app. This is an app I used to use frequently. Next thing is get the right size thumb pick. This is a medium from my local store, size medium, national. Because I've experimented with other thumb picks. They were either too small or the next size up from this, the same brand, comes in black. Size large is too big. So you want one that fits you right. So I guess I'm size medium, which is the white thumb pick. And the one I had before was a tortoise one. That was ridiculously small. I couldn't even get over the nail. They don't call it nail pick. But when you don't know any better, you just know this doesn't feel quite right. And then coming to terms with putting the slide on your, so this is the thumb picks to do with the picking hand, obviously, hence the name pick. But the slide goes on the fretting hand, and you got to get comfortable with that. This might be a little series. This might be part 1. I've found the most comfort on the pinky. A lot of people like a lot of people like the pinky. I've found the most comfortability with the ring finger. So my ring finger is here and has the slide pushed down to where it's sitting all the way down my finger, but only the very tip of my finger is poking out, and that's why I like this, because it feels very secure. My fingers are pretty long and skinny, so I use the pinky and the second finger, kind of fingers 2 and 4, if you will, as stability fingers. They hold on, grasp onto the slide. Now you notice this angle thing. You may not, because you can't see from that angle, but the slide is tilted. Like say if I was playing only the thinnest string, it would be the thinnest string that comes in contact with the slide only generally, while the first fingers here dampening, playing on strings 1 and 2, like 1 fret away when the frets are very spaced out. As I go up the neck, you may find that my first finger is kind of right beside the 12th fret, for example, here. Whereas here we were kind of more spaced out as dampening. It's completely dead. Dampening. You're reducing unwanted sounds, and by having the string action raised, you're reducing any clacking. See, I'm intentionally trying to get it. Anyway, you don't want that. You want it raised up. See, you can get it clacking if you're not perfect. Now, when you position the slide now directly in front of the frets you aim to play, not like when you're fretting where you're pushing down, making an indentation. That's why you see vintage fretboards with indentations on them. From pressing over hundreds of thousands of hours, seemingly. Tens of thousands or something. However long it takes, whatever particular attack someone may have. Some people baby their instruments and they sit in a case for a generation. They never get played and they take them out and they still sound tremendous, but they don't have that special something usually. They call that case queen. So if you're a little bit to the left or to the right of being right behind the fret or in front of the fret, depending on your viewpoint, if you're the audience or the player, you're going to be either a little sharp or a little flat. And many songs deal with notes that are in between, but if you're not directly in position, you won't get the correct pitch. So the first thing you might like to try and do is to get a note using the slide. So we're in this D tuning, and before I get into the real mechanics, you might like to learn a few chords to do with this tuning. Well, one chord is simple. I'm just strumming across all 6 strings without fretting anything with the left hand. That's our D. Another chord you can play when you play all 6 strings is a G with our ring finger on the 2nd fret, 2nd string, first finger on the 1st fret on the 3rd string, and my 2nd finger on the 2nd fret on the 5th string. Again, all 6. But stay in position when you make this chord, because you can just as easily shift with these 2 fingers, fingers 2 and 3, towards the floor. Mute the thickest string, because remember, strings 5 and 4 stay the same from standard tuning. A nice even strum. And that way you can get A7. So you notice a pretty easy change from G to the A7. It's just a shift. You might like to experiment with some other chord shapes you're familiar with. Like you may be used to playing E major chord here, first position in standard tuning. Well, what happens if you try that shape and you leave out the thickest string, for example? Take a listen to this chord. E major, it's no longer, but quite a nice sound. Sounds more like E minor. It's neither here nor there. It's a familiar shape, and that's called getting something for nothing. You're getting a new chord, getting a new sound. out of something you already know. And this familiar idea of moving such a shape up 2 frets. Nice. So that gets your foot in the door with familiarizing yourself with holding the slide, getting a few chords, and what you can experiment with in this tuning. And I've already taught you various scales to do with this tuning and other lessons to where you can take a country approach, you can take a bluesy approach, play a few notes from either scale, and strum, and then begin improvising with such a style. But this is more about a slide guitar tutorial that I want to get to. This may just be part 1. Now this is a glass slide. You want a slide with a little bit of weight to it, which just doesn't have an excessive amount of weight to it. It's got some weight to it and allows you to, but you don't want it too heavy, but you want it to kind of support itself in a sense. So say I'm on the thinnest string now, positioning like this. You'd start by trying to produce a note. You begin counting your frets now while not being adjacent to the fret, right behind the fret. Now you're on top of it, yet tilted directly behind. So you'd have like 2, 3. This would be the first fret here. Okay, I didn't show you the nut, but here's a guitar nut. So by default, this first strip of metal would be the first fret. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's the 5th fret dot inlay. So you'd count it this way: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you'd be right. Technically, you'd be further down than even the guitar inlay is. It's a new way of thinking. That's why you need this high action and this detuning to start, because you're reinventing the instrument. A lot of people who have injuries and what have you turn to slide playing. I'm not saying you should injure yourself, please don't. But it gives you a new approach, is the idea. So 1, 2, 3. It's important to have that reference. 1, 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret, 5th, 6, 7. So you're right. So there's a dot inlay there. So you begin looking at the frets a little bit differently, because now you're aiming to be not pressing down on it, directly surfacing it. Saying directly surfacing over it. So on the thinnest string, you can try producing notes, say on. So then you would know this. What would fret 4 be? 1, 2, 3, 4. Be here. And I'm picking with the right hand. See, when I move, I lose my posture. You can pick pretty hard. Well, most importantly, you want a clear note. And even if you're playing has a little bit of clacking or buzzing, you at least want to be able to make out what note you're going for. You want to get the correct pitch, because even if you're just a little bit off, the pitch won't be correct. It's a 4th fret. See, a little buzzing, but for example, but you can make out what I'm going for. Okay. Here's the 7th fret, and you can see my index finger is positioned where it is. Index dampening. But when I get to the 12th fret, all the way up here, now my index finger is almost right beside. Because due to the geometry of the instrument, the frets obviously get closer together as you go up the necks, just by design. So then you can practice producing a note like that. you land on it. Then you can try sliding, because you might like to slide with this slide, from fret 2 to 4. So I'm positioned in front of 2 to start, still dampening. And I land a position in front of 4. Let's try 2 to 7. 4 to 7, I mean, rather. And 7 to fret 12. Watch what the index finger does, how it comes together. Another thing you might like to try is adding the thinnest string, ringing open. That's just my thumb on the back of the neck, it's a little glossy. Okay? And notice how I catch the string. I'm playing an open string in between, I catch it and quiet it first. It's a subtle art. And it has a natural tendency with a big old dreadnought like this to want to tilt. So keep the neck angle and the geometry in perspective. Because it gets harder when you start doing things like side to side. So it's just as important to slide away from a note as it is to slide towards it. It's the same frets. Let's see if you're a little too far. And that's right on it. Okay. And you might like to try a little alternating bass. So that's, you don't want booming bass notes. That are hefty sounding. It's all with the thumb. You want tight controlled muting where you let it ring out for a second and then you quiet it. It's a subtle palm art. And when you get that going, you can try these exercises. Try producing a note while this goes. Your eyes really have to watch. Now when I do that side to side thing, I keep my eyes glued to the fret I'm landing on, and I just judge the distance by muscle memory. And you can try it with the open strings. So notice how I pinch from the 4th string. The thumb on the 4th string happened while you were in transit.